Hi, I'm Joe Dodds, and this is Bandar Sunset, an 8-player team deathmatch map for Battlefield 3, created in the community-made mod Venice Unleashed. Here's some overhead shots to help get a feel for the layout at ground level before I start showing the top-down maps. The map is situated in an otherwise unused area of the Bandar Desert map. I chose this map because it offered a large valley with enough room to create what was originally a conquest map. The first point I would like to outline regarding the map is its boundary. At the top and bottom of the image, you can see the boundary is quite tight to the nearest geometry, with a little wiggle room to accommodate for strafing. Conversely, the map extends far outwards laterally, allowing the players to valley's peaks the map sits between. The boundaries were initially a remnant of the original plan to create a conquest map, but I chose to keep them this large to allow for the possibility of some of the longest range sniping available in Battlefield 3. Players circulate the levels something like this. The two figure of 8s reflect the ability to cross over between the left and right channels in the open areas between construction and fountain. The flanks are also highlighted at the top and bottom and provide a more obscured and intrusive entry to either side of the map. Leading lines also help encourage this circulation, persuading the player to push forward to the next area while offering brief respite in between. Here are the map's hot zones, the key areas where combat takes place. You'll notice construction is further away than fountain from the centre of the map. I did this to allow players in construction to see enemies pushing forward below them, but with the risk of being more exposed at the front of the building. Moving from the border crossing to construction also allows for grenade throws to displace enemies trying to hold a position up there. Naturally, the hot zones are more built up and accommodate close quarters combat, while between hot zones you are more mid-range weaponry. Finally, the sightlines across zones allow mounted LMGs and snipers to exchange fire. Within the hot zones themselves, construction offers some interconnected routes, with something I've been calling the Bourne moment, leaping from the roof of one building into the other's lower floor, if you can pull it off. Another factor tied to player movement is half cover. Throughout the map, the half cover has been used to break the line of sight across open areas to provide more safety while moving. They are all quite evenly distributed around the halfway mark of routes, as to not make them overly abundant or break up the player movement too much. Especially near construction, there should be a risk factor getting there. It's a valuable position. Cars and trucks are the most natural assets to use for half cover, and have the added bonus of being destructible. While the explosions may be deadly and decrease the mesh in size, the plumes of smoke grant even more obscurity when moving forward from area to area. With the map spawn points, I've ensured players are always oriented to see their options. The player's choice is always readily apparent to them from the get-go, and normally offers one of two routes. The spawn locations I have used in buildings is similar to those found on other maps also using these buildings, and seek to provide protection regardless of destruction. Here's a block out of the map in its simplest form, showing the main routes available between areas. An element I wanted to encourage in my map was the destructibility. Battlefield is known for it. It's unfortunate that tankers rely on explosive weaponry, or on vehicles for most maps, to explode, as this would have allowed for more accessible destruction outside of using an RPG. I'll talk a little about some of the issues I faced while working on this map with some more gameplay in the background. As Venice Unleashed is still in development, there are lots of bugs, crashes, and limitations. While I'm happy with the map I chose to work in, without another mod called No Havoc, the asset pool was really limited, and most objects on the base map couldn't be used. There are issues with saving as well, with minor changes to the map, say swapping a car for a truck, requiring every other object in the map to be moved up and back down to acknowledge their position in the export. This slowed development down dramatically, and when making major changes it became easier to remake the map from scratch, which I had to do roughly 5 or 6 times. The final main issue I had involved needing to switch back to player mode every 5 minutes, or else I would be kicked from my own server, and when trying to return would result in a crash. It's easy to get in the flow when having to move all the objects in the map, and if you're not careful you will lose a lot of work forgetting to switch repeatedly. One issue affecting the map outside of the map editor is the friend zones created to ensure players don't spawn close to enemies. Despite having large friend zones, even accounting for players outside the boundary, there are issues with enemies spawning in the same building as the player. While these issues exist, Venice Unleashed provides so many opportunities and there is so much to work with here. It will only get easier and easier in the future as key features are in development right now. While there may be some kinks using the map editor, it's been well worth it, and I'm beyond pleased with the map I've been able to create. In the near future, it would be nice to return to this map and make changes to the southern flank, which I'll bring close to the main corridor to make it more accessible. Right now it still feels a little too out of the way. As well, I would love to change the colour filter to boost the oranges and pinks, as well as making a stronger pink skybox. Thank you for watching, and feel free to message me with any questions or feedback.